It's time to hit the road and discover Texas with Annie Studebaker. Get ready to travel deep into the heart of the Lone Star State, meeting friendly folks and exploring fascinating places. Experience a way of life like nowhere else in the world as we uncover the rich history and culture of Texas. Discover adventure, discover excitement, discover Texas with Annie Studebaker.
Today we will be visiting High Lonesome Ranch in McMullen County. Hunting and fishing is only part of what the ranch has to offer. All guests stay at the Lonesome Dove Village, specially designed and furnished to recreate a blend of the Wild West expansion and the Victorian era, also known as the Victorian West.
How did you start the village?
Well, the village started like all towns start. It started with a particular need that you have. And we had a hunting operation, so we had to have a place for the hunters to stay. And then we had to provide food for them, so we had to build a kitchen. And as time went on, we decided we wanted the little Western village theme. And so as we carried that theme through, more and more things happen. And the first question we have now is, how many can you sleep? So we built a hotel to try to help with that. But we still have people want to come in, the real large groups that we can't accommodate. You know, there might be 50 or 100 people and we just can't accommodate that many. So what we've done with it is we've used it for hunting, we used it for fishing, we used it for corporate meetings and weddings.
Who designed this beautiful village?
Nancy designed it. Basically, I met her in college and we took some entrance examinations, and she found out she's real interested in architecture. But she never did anything with it until late in life, and she found out she had a real gift for it because she designed all the buildings and decorated them all, and it's really phenomenal. Everybody that comes down here just can't believe the kind of buildings that we have, the decorations that we have, and Nancy did it all.
All of our facilities here, we have 16 rooms in the village, and we have 8 rooms in the hotel, which have either a king or queen bed in them. And then the rest of the buildings, like the Wells Fargo Express and the Schoolhouse, the jail, all the other buildings that are guest rooms, have 2 beds in them. Most of them have 2 queen beds. Some have, the jail has 2 single beds, but most of them have 2 queen beds in them. So we can handle, quite a few people. Each one of them has its own bathroom, which is very nice. And their own air conditioning. They're all air conditioned and heated. So we have good facilities, and hopefully you all had a comfortable rest last night. One of my favorite beds in the hotel, I don't know whether you saw it or not, is one that I just recently purchased, and it's an antique that was built in 1841 by a slave in New Orleans. And he worked for Millard, who was a very famous furniture builder, builds Rococo Victorian furniture, and it was his design, but I think this slave worked for him, and it's a beautiful, beautiful bed. I just love it. It's a walnut or rosewood, I'm not sure which one, but we were really fortunate to be able to acquire that bed recently.
The village also has a 2-story hotel. Once we passed the big and spacious porch and opened the front door, we knew that these rooms would be awesome. Each room was cleverly furnished and designed from Western to Victorian style. I had the privilege of selecting the hotel room that I wanted to stay in. Let me tell you, it was not an easy decision. All the rooms were absolutely beautiful. In addition to the hotel, the village also has more rooms that are uniquely designed to fit the old frontier days. Imagine sleeping at the Wells Fargo Bank or at the sheriff's office. Well, there is more. We'll be back shortly. In addition to the hotel, the village has more rooms that are uniquely designed to fit its theme. In the Wells Fargo room, there were many authentic furnishings, like the safe, the scale, the telephone switchboard, and more. Wait a minute, is that real gold? Now let's take a look at this next room. It has an assortment of Western hats and boots, so let's giddy up. The schoolhouse is another very unique room. It's filled with antiques. You'll see student desks, teacher desks, books, and much, much more. The minute I walked in the room, I felt like I was about to see Laura Ingalls at one of the desks. Now wait a minute, I know a Lou B. Could it be the same person? Oh well, whoever it may be, I know he truly enjoyed his stay. Check out the sheriff's office. It comes with the sheriff and the bandits. But no worries, if you choose to slumber in jail, they'll sit quietly and watch you rest. The general storeroom is decorated with many antiques like soda bottles and trays, old candy jars, lamps, tins, and even an old register. The hats, gloves, and boots mark an era that was led with high morals, decorum, and modesty. Take a look at the Red Horse Saloon. One walk through those swinging bar doors, and the sound of that music would take you back to a time where we are all very familiar with simply because we have read about it or watched Western movies. Some of these saloons were very lavishly decorated, demonstrating the Victorian West at its best. Just imagine Wyatt Earp, Wild Bill Hickok, or Buffalo Bill visiting places like these, drinking from crystal wine glasses and gambling with their feet on oriental rugs. The saloon was filled with an array of memorabilia. This whole concept of the Victorian West clearly defines the elegance and style that was brought over from the pioneers who chose to leave their comfortable Eastern surroundings but would not abandon their good social graces. Here at the Barbershop, you will see many interesting things, from authentic barbershop chairs to a collection of vintage shaving mugs and brushes. At the entrance of the village stands the Church of the Leoncita. As you walk in, on the back wall, a beautiful painting is displayed. The Hunleys bought it knowing that it would be a great addition to their church. The pews are all antique and made to fit. The San Fernando Cathedral in San Antonio was undergoing refurbishment, and the Hunleys were fortunate enough to purchase the pews. One great carpenter from Waco, Texas, was able to split them in half and make them look like new once more. The Longhorn Cafe is where everyone that is staying at the village comes to enjoy a delicious meal. The U.S. Post Office was quite interesting, I say. Here's where you will find an interesting array of antique mailboxes, flags, and much, much more.
In our post office, we have a collection of American flags. We have a 48-star, 49-star, and 50-star flags. And our really, the one that we're just real proud of is our 49-star flag, because there was only 49 states for 8 months. And those kind of flags are very, very hard to find. And we just happened upon one in an antique store one time. So we have that in our collection in the post office.
Here you will see a room that is decorated with saddles and saddlebags used in the old frontier days.
In South Texas, it gets pretty hot during the summer. So June, July, August, September, it has really made it comfortable to have guests down because we spend a lot of time around the pool. And so we made a little changing room, or actually a pool house. Has 2 bathrooms, shower in it. And we did that in the Victorian style to go along with the rest of the village, because the village is actually Victorian, Western Victorian. You know, some people would say, gosh, this doesn't look too ranchy. My son-in-law said, Nancy, this isn't very ranchy looking. And I said, but you don't realize that when people opened up the West, came westward, they brought with them the things that the furniture that they had back east, and it was beautiful furniture. And it was Victorian furniture back in the 1800s. So much of our furniture is Victorian that we collect from various places, antique stores, estate sales, just wherever we can find it. And so we decided to, because to me there's more interest in seeing a Victorian Western village than just a plain rustic village.
So when people come down here and they leave the city, they want to have an experience that's different. And this is very different. It's like going back in time 100, 150 years to the Old West. We were in the area where the old cattle drives originated. And there has been more written about those than just about anything that's ever happened in the United States. And that period only lasted for around 15 years. And they've made some ranchers wealthy because you could buy a cow down here in South Texas for $1 and it's worth $20 up in Dodge City. So they'd take 3 months and move some cattle up there to the railhead, and it made them rich.
By the way, don't forget to visit the Bat Cave. It was recently built to accommodate many bats.
My brother, who is a designing engineer for bridges and interchanges, engineered it, and then we have had a bridge company out of Bulverde, Texas, the Hill Country Bridges, come down and build it. It was really a big operation. I mean, it's a big bat cave. We have a 72-foot entrance tunnel, and the actual chamber is 20 feet wide, 50 feet long, and 15 feet high. And like a typical bridge, it has beams across it, which give added space for the bats to roost in. And so we could probably accommodate, over 1 million bats. And we're hoping they're going to find it. We just finished it, just completed it. And sometimes it takes a couple of years for the bats to find it. They just have to find it on their own. There's no way that you can put the bats in there or attract the bats. They just have to find it. But we do feel like they're going to find it fairly soon because it's near the lake. I mean, it's right at the lake. And they need water, and of course the lake attracts bugs, and that's what they're after. So we feel that, we'll have bats real soon. And there's just a lot of pluses for having bats around, keeping just the mosquitoes away when you're out in the yard. So it'll be very advantageous once they find it.
And then we had to make it look like a real bat cave, so we had to landscape it because it was just bare dirt with a hole in the side of a hill. So what we did was we imported some real beautiful rock to put around the entranceway, and then outcroppings. And then we took some of the vegetation from around the ranch and transplanted it, put some old deer horn sheds out, some old skulls from javelinas, and some old logs. So it really looks like a real cave when you come to the outside of it.
Because the whole thing is underground. It's all underground except for the entrance. And so it looks like a regular cave.
We have real good dove hunting, we have real good quail hunting, and mainly deer. That's what the whole place is set up for, big bucks, that type of thing.
The avid hunter is going to really like this processing area. It's equipped with a hoist and with a drain conveniently placed right below it. It also has a meat grinder and sausage stuffer, a walk-in cooler that can store about 20 deer at one time, a washing table, and much more. Another interesting fact about Charles and Nancy is that when there is an abundance of meat, they're able to donate it.
because we have so much game that we need to get off the ranch to keep it from being overstocked. What do you do with the meat? Well, we have a lot of needy families in the area that really need the meat. It's not a luxury to them, it's almost a necessity. So my foreman has their phone numbers, and he calls them and they come out and just pick the meat up. So we're able to dispose of all the meat that we need to get rid of besides the stuff that we use ourselves. So that's the way this works.
High Lonesome Ranch also offers shooting ranges. Hunters who are familiar with their equipment through practice make hunting safer for everyone. Practice improves marksmanship and builds confidence. You will find a stable filled with wagons, including a stagecoach. Charles and Nancy gave me the grand tour and proceeded to educate me on the many uses of these wagons. The chuck wagon was one of my favorites. Just to think that people travel with their kitchen on wheels is amazing. What troopers. Absolutely. This is fabulous. Back in the old days, this is what they did when they traveled. Unbelievable. All the supplies, all their food was in here, and their plates. See there? We'd have a meal from heaven.
On the trail drives, the cook was the real boss. He was the one guy you didn't want to make mad at you.
That's right. That's right.
And they always carried their whiskey jugs.
Oh, whiskey.
Because they used them for medicinal purposes.
Oh, I could use one.
Would you like a little whiskey? And not
So
too much. You know, if somebody got hurt, they would make them drink a little whiskey. This was their anesthesia.
Yes,
So they were all getting hurt
They were. Yeah, they like to get hurt.
Fresh.
every day. They get hurt.
They'd have an excuse to drink. Definitely. Why not? Oh my goodness. This is just all beautiful stuff. There are many more things to see at High Lonesome Ranch. They offer a meeting room, gift shop, swimming pool, shooting ranges, and much, much more.
Groups that come in and they stay in the little houses, and then each one of them will have a guide, and we'll take them out, and then we tell them what they can take, and we feed them. And then we have people that come in and fish, do the same thing with them. And then we have a board of directors meeting, come down here and they use this place as a meeting place. You know, when these companies are always looking for something different, because their meetings, they have them all the time, and they get redundant. So this is very different, and they really enjoy it. And we developed a meeting room for them, so we have all the facilities here for meetings. And then because we've got the little church, we've had some weddings down here, and one of the problems is that church will only seat about 40 people, but we have a way to overcome that by just letting the couple get married on the church house steps. And we put bales of hay out there for the 200 or 300 people that come. And one of the unique things that we did at the last wedding was we have a stagecoach that we had come down from the top of the hill with the bride in it, and that's the way she came into the wedding, and that was real unique. And we're getting ready to have another wedding here in the fall.
Right. We're just really blessed to to live out in the wilderness, so to speak, and yet have a lot of the modern conveniences. We have fiber optics, which brings us telephone, television, internet, and Wi-Fi. So we're just really, really happy to have all these things available here on the ranch and in the village. When we have corporate meetings, they're able to use their laptops with the Wi-Fi and the televisions and, of course, the telephone as well. So we're really blessed. We're way out here in the middle of nowhere, and yet we have the conveniences of the city. When we bought this ranch, we came down to look at it, and it was so run down at the time, you know, and we were not used to a ranch quite this size, and the ones we had had previously were always smaller, and we didn't have hired help. And I thought to myself, and I told Charles, I don't think we need to buy that ranch. Who in the world, because he still works. And I thought, who is going to do all the plowing and all the upkeeping and all of this? Because I'd never thought about hiring people to do it, you know. And I said, I'll never go down there. I'll never go down there. It's a God-forsaken land. But you know what? It is so beautiful. I love it down here. You really learn to appreciate the beauty in South Texas. I mean, it really is a beautiful place to be, especially in the morning and the evening. It does get hot during the day, but you learn to appreciate the different kinds of plants and trees and animals and things down here in South Texas. We'd always been more or less in the hill country.
It's very interesting to know that there are places out there, like High Lonesome Ranch, that recreate a blast from the past in order to make your stay a memorable one. This brings us to the end of our show, where we visit interesting places and meet interesting people. See you soon.